Crypto.
We're reading the Nectar Devotion. The complete science of Bhakti Yoga. The highest perfection of mystic power is called Kama Vasayati. Kama Vasayati. This is also magic. But whereas the Prakamriya power acts to create wonderful effects within the scope of nature, Kama Vasayita permits one to contradict nature. In other words, to do the impossible. Of course, one can derive great amounts of temporary happiness by achieving such yogic materialistic perfections. Foolishly, people who are enamored of the glitter of modern materialistic advancement are thinking that the Krishna consciousness movement is for less intelligent men. I am better off being busy with my material comforts, maintaining a nice apartment, family, and sex life. These people do not know that at any moment they can be kicked out of their material situation. Due to ignorance, they do not know that real life is eternal. The temporary comforts of the body are not the goal of life, and it is only due to darkest ignorance that people become enamored by the glittering advancement of material comforts. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura has therefore said that the advancement of material knowledge renders a person more foolish, because it causes one to forget his real identity by its glitter. This is doomed for him, because this human form of life is meant for getting out of material contamination. By the advancement of material knowledge, people are becoming more and more entangled in material existence. They have no hope of being liberated from this catastrophe. In the Hari Bhakti Suhodaya, it is stated that Prahlad Maharaj, a great devotee of the Lord, prayed to Nrsimhadev, a half lion, half man incarnation, as follows. My dear Lord, I repeatedly pray into your lotus feet that I may simply be stronger in devotional service. I simply pray that my Krishna consciousness may be more strong and steady, because happiness derived out of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is so powerful that with it one can have all the other perfections of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and even the attainment of liberation from material existence. Actually, a pure devotee does not aspire after any of these perfections, because the happiness derived from devotional service in Krishna consciousness is so transcendental and so unlimited that no other happiness can compare to it. It is said that even one drop of happiness in Krishna consciousness stands beyond comparison with an ocean of happiness derived from any other activity. Thus, any person who has developed even a little quantity of pure devotional service can very easily kick out all the other kinds of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. There was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya known as Kolavecha Sridhara. He was a very poor man. He was doing a small business selling cups made from the leaves of plantain trees, and his income was almost nothing. Still, he was spending 50% of his small income on the worship of the Ganges. With the other 50%, he was somehow living. Lord Chaitanya once revealed himself to this confidential devotee, Kulavecha Sridhara, and offered him any opulence he liked. But Sridhara informed the Lord that he did not want any material opulence. He was quite happy in his present position and wanted only to gain unflinching faith and devotion unto the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. That is the position of pure devotees. If they can be engaged 24 hours each day in devotional service, they do not want anything else, not even the happiness of liberation or of becoming one with the Supreme. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is also said that any person who has developed even a small amount of devotional service doesn't care a fig for any kind of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, or the 5 kinds of liberation. Any kind of happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, liberation, or sense gratification cannot even dare to enter into the heart of a pure devotee. It is stated that as the personal attendants and maidservants of a queen follow the queen with all respect and obeisances, similarly, the joys of religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation follow the devotional service of the Lord. In other words, a pure devotee does not lack any kind of happiness derived from any source. He does not want anything but service to Krishna. But even if he should have another desire, the Lord fulfills this without the devotee's asking. The rareness of pure devotional service. In the preliminary phase of spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, and similar processes for attaining self-realization. However, even if an executor of these processes is without any material desire, he still cannot achieve devotional service. And aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very hopeful, because Krishna does not agree to award devotional service to merely anyone. Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. Devotional service can, in fact, be attained only through the mercy of pure devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 19.151, it is stated, by the mercy of the spiritual master, who is a pure devotee, and by the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve the platform of devotional service. There is no other way. The rarity of devotional service is also confirmed in the Tantra Shastra. The Lord Shiva says to Sati, "My dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher, analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from the material entanglement. By performance of the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Veda, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy the material comforts of life to the fullest extent. But all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries for it by such processes for many, many thousands of births. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj that merely by personal efforts or by the instructions of higher authorities, one cannot attain to the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee, who is completely freed from the contamination of material desires. In the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th chapter, verse 18, Shukadeva Goswami also says to Maharaj Parikshit, "My dear king, it is Lord Krishna, known as Mukunda, who is the eternal protector of the Pandavas and the Yadus. He is also your spiritual master and instructor in every respect. He is the only worshipful God for you. He is very dear and affectionate. He is the director of all your activities, both individual and familial. And what's more, he sometimes carries out your orders as if he were your messenger. My dear king, how very fortunate you are, because for others, all these favors given to you by the Supreme Lord would not even be dreamt of." The purport to this verse is that the Lord easily offers his liberation, but he rarely agrees to offer a sole devotional service, because by devotional service, the Lord himself becomes purchased by the devotee. The happiness of becoming one with the Supreme. Srila Rupa Goswami says that if Brahmananda, or the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme, is multiplied by 1 trillion-fold, it still cannot compare to an atomic fraction of the happiness derived from the ocean of devotional service. In the Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya Prahlada Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, while satisfying Lord Nrsimhadev by his prayers, says, "My dear Lord of the universe, I am feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become merged in the ocean of happiness. I now consider the happiness of Brahmananda to be no more than the water in the impression left by a cow's hoof in the earth, compared to this ocean of bliss. Similarly, it is confirmed in the Bhavarta Deepika, Sridhara Swami's commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Lord, some of the fortunate persons who are swimming in the ocean of your nectar of emotion and who are relishing the nectar of the narration of your pastimes certainly know ecstasies which immediately minimize the value of the happiness derived from religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Such a transcendental devotee regards any kind of happiness other than devotional service as no better than straw in the street." Attracting Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that devotional service attracts even Krishna. Krishna attracts everyone, but devotional service attracts Krishna. The symbol of devotional service is, in the highest degree, is Radharani. Krishna is called Madana Mohana, which means that he is so attractive that he can defeat the attraction of thousands of cupids. But Radharani is still more attractive, for she can even attract Krishna. Therefore, devotees call her Madana Mohana Mohini, the attractor of Cupid. To perform devotional service means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani, and devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. In other words, devotional service is not an activity of the material world, it is directly under the control of Radharani. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or great souls are under the protection of Daivi Prakriti, the internal energy, Radharani. So being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. This fact is corroborated by Krishna in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, verse 20. Where he says, "My dear Uddhava, you may know it from me that the attraction I feel for devotional service rendered by my devotees is not to be attained even by the performance of mystic yoga, philosophical speculation, ritualistic sacrifices, the study of Vedanta, the practice of severe austerities, or the giving of everything in charity. These are, of course, very nice activities, but they are not as attractive to me as the transcendental loving service rendered by my devotees." How Krishna becomes attracted by the devotional service of his devotees is described by Narada in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 10th chapter, verses 48 and 49. There, Narada addresses King Yudhishthira while the king is appreciating the glories of the character of Prahlad Maharaj. A devotee always appreciates the activities of other devotees. Yudhishthira Maharaj was appreciating the qualities of Prahlad, and that is one symptom of a pure devotee. A pure devotee never thinks himself great. He always thinks that other devotees are greater than himself. The king was thinking, Prahlad Maharaj is actually a devotee of the Lord, while I am nothing. And while thinking this, he was addressed by Narada as follows: "My dear King Yudhishthira, you Pandava brothers are the only fortunate people in this world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared on this planet and is presenting himself to you as an ordinary human being. He is always with you in all circumstances. He is living with you and covering himself in the eyes of the others. Others cannot understand that he is the Supreme Lord, but he is still living with you as your cousin, as your friend, and even as your messenger. Therefore, you must know that nobody in this world is more fortunate than you." In Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna appeared in his universal form, Arjuna prayed, "My dear Krishna, I thought of you as my cousin brother, and so I have shown disrespect to you in so many ways, calling you Krishna a friend. But you are so great that I could not understand." So that was the position of the Pandavas. Although Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the greatest among all greats, he remained with those royal brothers, being attracted by their devotion, by their friendship, and by their love. That is the proof of how this great process of devotional service is. It can attract even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is great, but devotional service is greater than God because it attracts him. People who are not in devotional service can never understand what great value there is in rendering service to the Lord. Chapter 2, the first stages of devotion. The three categories of devotional service which Srila Rupa Goswami describes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead. There are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service in practice, there are two different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has 4 qualities, and devotional service in pure love of Godhead has 6 qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Rupa Goswami later on. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami suggests that a person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotional service unless he has had some previous connection with it. For example, suppose in this life I practice devotional service to some extent. Even though it is not 100% perfectly performed, whatever I have done will not be lost. In my next life, from the very point where I stopped in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in a pure devotee's instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotional service. Anyway, for persons who have a natural taste for understanding books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is easier than for those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation and argumentative processes. To support this statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to their general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions derived by his own arguments and decisions. Then another person, who may be a greater logician, will nullify these conclusions and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of argument will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends, therefore, that one follow in the footsteps of the authorities. Here's a general description of devotional service given by Sri Here's a general description for devotional service given by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Previously, it has been stated that devotional service can be divided into three categories, namely devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of God. Now, Sri Rupa Goswami proposes to describe devotional service in practice. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, and some are meant for executing the conclusions of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, he walks very nicely. Similarly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the natural instinct of every living entity. Even uncivilized men like the Aborigines offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law. They appreciate that behind some wonderful exhibition or action, there is something supreme. So this consciousness, although lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living entity. And when purified, this is called Krishna consciousness. There are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked, as much as the child, with a little practice, can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, There are certain processes which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice is called sadhana bhakti. Every living entity under the spell of material energy is held to be in an abnormal condition of madness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, generally, the conditioned soul is mad because he is always engaged in activities which are the causes of bondage and suffering. Spirit soul, in his original condition, is joyful, blissful, eternal, and full of knowledge. Only by his implication in material activities has he become miserable, temporary, and full of ignorance. This is due to vikarma. Vikarma means actions which should not be done. Therefore, we must practice sadhana bhakti, which means to offer Mangala Arati, deity worship in the morning, to refrain from certain material activities, to offer obeisances to the spiritual master, and to follow many other rules and regulations which will be discussed here one after another. These practices will help one become cured of madness. As a man's mental disease is cured by the directions of a psychiatrist, so does sadhana bhakti cures the conditioned soul of his madness under the spell of Maya, material illusion. Narada Muni mentions this sadhana bhakti in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 1st chapter, verse 32. He says there to King Yudhishthira, my dear king, one has to fix his mind on Krishna by any means. This is called Krishna consciousness. It is the duty of the Acharya, spiritual master, to find the ways and means for his disciple to fix his mind on Krishna. That is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us an authorized program for this purpose, centered around the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This chanting has so much power that it immediately attaches one to Krishna. This is the beginning of sadhana bhakti. Somehow or other, one has to fix his mind on Krishna. The great Saint Ambarisa Maharaj, although a responsible king, fixed his mind on Krishna. And similarly, anyone who tries to fix his mind in this way will very rapidly make progress in successfully reviving his original Krishna consciousness. Now this sadhana bhakti, or practice of devotional service, may also be divided into two parts. The first part is called service according to regulative principles. One has to follow these different regulative principles by the order of the spiritual master or on the strength and authority of the scriptures. And there can be no question of refusal. That is called vaidhi, or regulated. One has to do it without argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arati, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arati, but then he develops real attachment. When he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided in two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. Rupa Goswami defines the first part of devotional practice, or vaidhi bhakti, as follows. When there is no attachment or no spontaneous loving service of the Lord, and one is engaged in the service of the Lord, simply out of obedience to the order of the spiritual master, or in pursuance of the scriptures, such obligatory service is called vaidhi bhakti. Principles of Vaidhi Bhakti are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 1st chapter, verse 5, where Srukadeva Goswami instructs the dying Maharaj Parikshit as to his course of action. Maharaj Parikshit met Sukadeva Goswami just a week before his death, and the king was perplexed as to what should be done before he was to pass on. Many other sages also arrived there, but no one could give him the proper direction. Sukadeva Goswami, however, gave this direction to him as follows. My dear king, if you want to be fearless in meeting your death next week, for actually everyone is afraid at the point of death, then you must immediately begin the process of hearing and chanting and remembering God. If one can chant and hear Hare Krishna and always remember Lord Krishna, then he is sure to become fearless of death, which may come at any moment. In the statements of Sukadeva Goswami, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. Therefore, Sukadeva recommends that one should always hear about Krishna. He does not recommend that one hear and chant about the demigods. The Mayavadis and personalists say that one may chant any name, either that of Krishna or that of the demigods, and the result will be the same. But actually, this is not a fact. According to the authorized version of Srimad Bhagavatam, one has to hear and chant about Lord Vishnu, Krishna only. So Sukadeva Goswami has recommended to Parikshit Maharaj that in order to be fearless of death, one has to hear about, chant about, and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead by all means. He also mentions that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Sarvatma. Sarvatma means the super soul of everyone. Krishna is also mentioned as Ishvara, the supreme controller who is situated in everyone's heart. Therefore, in some way or other, we become attached to Krishna. He will make us free from all danger. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that anyone who becomes a devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. Others, however, are always vanquished. Vanquished means that after getting this human form of life, a person does not come out of the entanglement of birth and death, and thus misses his golden opportunity. Such a person does not know where he is being thrown by the laws of nature. Suppose one does not develop Krishna consciousness in this human form of life, he will be thrown to the cycle of birth and death, involving 8,400,000 species of life, and his spiritual identity will remain lost. One does not know whether he is going to be a plant or a beast or a bird or something like that, because there are so many species of life. The recommendation of Rupa Goswami for reviving our original Krishna consciousness is that somehow or other we should apply our minds to Krishna very seriously, and thus also become fearless of death. After death, we do not know our destination, because we are completely under the control of the laws of nature. Only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is controller over the laws of nature. Therefore, if we take shelter of Krishna seriously, there will be no fear of being thrown back into the cycle of so many species of life. A sincere devotee will surely be transferred to the abode of Krishna, as affirmed in Bhagavad Gita. In the Padma Purana, also the same process is advised. There it is said that one should always remember Lord Vishnu. This is called dhyana, or meditation, always remembering Krishna. It is said that one has to meditate with his mind fixed upon Vishnu. Padma Purana recommends that one always fix his mind on the form of Vishnu by meditation and not forget him at any moment. And this state of consciousness is called samadhi or trance. We should always try to mold the activities of our lives in such a way that we will constantly remember Vishnu or Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Whether one concentrates his mind on the four-handed form of Vishnu or on the form of two-handed Krishna, it is the same. The Padma Purana recommends somehow or other always think of Vishnu without forgetting him under any circumstances. Actually, this is the most basic of all regulative principles. For when there is an order from a superior about doing something, there is simultaneously a prohibition. When the order is that one should always remember Krishna, the prohibition is that one should never forget him. Within the simple order and prohibition, all regulative principles are found complete. This regulative principle is applicable to all varnas and ashrams. The castes and occupations of life. There are four varnas, namely the brahmanas, priests and intellectuals, kshatriyas, warriors and statesmen, the vaishyas, businessmen and farmers, and the shudras, laborers and servants. There are also four standard ashrams, namely brahmacharya, student life, grihastha, householder, vanaprastha, retired, and sannyasa, renounced. The regulative principles were not only for the brahmacharyas, some of the students to follow, but are applicable to all. It doesn't matter whether one is a beginner, a brahmachari, or is very advanced, a sannyasi. The principle of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly and not forgetting him at any moment is meant to be followed by everyone without fail. If this injunction is followed, then all other rules and regulations will automatically fall into line. All other rules or regulations should be treated as assistants or servants to this one basic principle. The injunctions or rules and regulations and the resultant reactions are mentioned in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, verses 2 and 3. Kamasa Muni, one of the 9 sages who came to instruct King Nimi, addressed the king and said, the 4 social orders, namely the brahmanas and kshatriyas, the vaishyas and the shudras, have come out of the different parts of the universal form of the Supreme Lord as follows. The brahmanas have come out from the head, the kshatriyas have come out from the arms, the vaishyas have come out from the waist, and the shudras have come out from the legs. Similarly, the sannyasis have come out from the head, the vanaprasthas from the arms, the grihasthas from the waist, and the brahmacharis from the legs. These different orders of society and grades of spiritual advancement are conceived in terms of qualification. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the 4 social orders and the 4 spiritual orders are created by the Lord himself. In terms of different individual qualities, as the different parts of the body have different types of activities, so the social orders and spiritual orders also have different types of activities in terms of qualification and position. The target of these activities, however, is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, he is the supreme enjoyer. So, whether one is a brahmana or shudra, one has to satisfy the Supreme Lord by one's activities. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay.
Ibanara yari kori chamaradulaya. Ibanara kori chamaradulaya. Sanjaya su Goshaligaya. Sanjaya Mukunda Su Goshaligaya. Shiva Shankar Baje Ganta Baje Baje Karatala. Shiva Shankar, Jiganta Baje, Baje Karata, Madhu Sala, Madhura Ranga Baje, Sala, Shiva Bahu, Pati Chandra Jini, Navjwala, Shiva Bahu, Pati Chandra Jini, Vadana Ujwala, Kalla Deshe Banamala, Kore Jalamala, Kalla Deshe Banamala, Kore Jalamala, Shiva Shiva, Shukanarada, Preme Gada Gada, Shiva Shiva, Shukanarada, Gada Gada. Sampada Vakati Vinoda Veke Torara Sampada Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatyadashatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohana Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahava Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahava Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड Radha Kund, Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Mathura Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Yamuna Mai ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Hiranyakashipur Vaksha. Shila Tanka Nakalaye. Ito Nishimho Parato Nishimho. Yato Yato Yamitato Nishimha. Bahir Nishimho Hridaye Nishimho. Narasimhamadim Sharanam Prapadye. Avakara Kamaravare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavajita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadish Hare. Keshavajita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Mahadev Ki Jai. Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Man, for real. Yes. You know, uh, do you know that yoga actually lubricates your joint? Yeah, that I heard that somewhere. I'm gonna get started. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Paragamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I think 23. Sure, I take a book. I probably will probably be using this, but I can take a book anyway. But
I will take your offering as on my head, but I mean, yeah, I could take it. Yeah, it's Krishna's book. Okay, so unless somebody else wants to do this, 23. Oh, okay. So we did the big one. Did we read that one? That's a big one. We can do 24. Okay. Thank you. Would you do this thing? Or you want me to do it? Would you do it or you want me to do it? Okay. So let's do text 24. We'll sing the Sanskrit and the translation in unison. Sanishchayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinachetasa sankalpa prabhavan kamams tyaktva sarvana sheshataha manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samannatataha. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of false ego, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Text 25. Shanai shanar upramid buddhya dhriti griti deya dhatma sangstam mana kritva na kinchit apichintayet. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Text 26. Yato yato nishalati manaschanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitar atmanyeva vasham nayet. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Text 27. Prashanta manasang yenang yoginang sukamatmamam upaiti shanta rajasang brahmabhutam akalmasham. The yogi, whose mind is fixed on me, verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated. His mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. Text 28. Yunjan evam saratmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma sangsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute. Studying the self, being freed from all material contamination, the yogi achieves the highest perfectional stage of happiness in touch with the Supreme Consciousness. Text 29. Sarvabhutastang atmanang sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized man sees me everywhere. Text 30. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na prashasyami sacha me pranashyati. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Text 31. Sarva bhuta stitam yo mam bhajantye kritamastita sarvatas vartamanopi sayogi mai vartate. The yogi who knows that I and the supersoul within all creatures are one worships me and remains always in me in all circumstances. Text 32. Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukham sayogi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings, both in their happiness and distress, O Arjuna. Text 33. Arjuna uvacha yomang yogas tata prokta samyena madhusudana etasyahang napashyami chanchalatvat stitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. So that was now this next one is the last text. 34. Chanchalang he mana Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sadushkaram. For the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, it seems to me, more difficult than controlling the wind. So now we'll return to text 24. This chapter, all right, we'll read it. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with undeviating determination and faith. One should abandon, without exception, all material desires born of false ego, and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Report. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure of success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says, Utsahan nishchaya dharyat tat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasiddhyate. The process of Bhakti Yoga can be executed successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance, and determination by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees and by engaging completely in activities of goodness. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. The sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean... Sorry, my phone died. You want to bring me that box? Yeah, that'd be great. It says, the sparrow was there. She laid her eggs on the ocean, and then the ocean took away the eggs. Now she wants the eggs back. Should be just plugged into the wall. Thank you very much. So this one says that the sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activity spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate toward his small sister bird, and so he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this, and returned the eggs. Thus the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially bhakti yoga in Krishna consciousness, may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help, for God helps those who help themselves. So, this chapter is entitled Sankhya Yoga, and we hear Lord Krishna is describing the yoga process as it would normally be practiced in actually in the Satya Yuga. And all of this is to actually set up for the conclusion of the 6th chapter, which is that actually Bhakti Yoga is the best. And we heard in the verses, Arjuna actually says that whatever you talk to me about this yoga that you've been talking about, I'm not sure I can do that one. Right? So we're in the same boat, actually, and that's why Krishna, he actually did that. One can say, why would Krishna tell me to do all these things, even though he knows we can't do it? This is the whole point. Because Arjuna is the, more or less, you could say the quintessential archetypal of perfect man, perfect qualified person. He's the greatest warrior, valiant and brave. He has so many wins under his belt. He was trained by sages in the forest. His mother is a great saint and devotee of Krishna, as well as a wonderful, you know, in the material sphere as well. He has the most awesome wife. He's got the most awesome brothers. You know, he's Krishna's best friend. And everything's going for him. But this yoga is not going to work for him. So that should ring a bell for us. And we should try to figure out, just like Arjuna is, you know, what we're supposed to do. The wonderful thing about all these purports, though, is that every purport, even though Arjuna is being spoken to by Krishna about a process which is not going to be possible for him to follow, from a certain perspective, you can actually take all of these principles and you can apply them in the context of bhakti yoga. So even though Krishna is talking about standing erect and going to the holy place and breathing and doing all this type of stuff to achieve equilibrium of mind, so then you can actually focus on the super soul within the heart, we can use the same principles, right, which are actually behind these verses or inside of these verses, and we can apply them to bhakti yoga. And that's exactly what Prabhupada does. And that's actually what acharyas do, is that they always talk about the essence, and they can see anything and hear anything, and they can relate it to the process of devotional service, which from the 6th chapter, the conclusion of the 6th chapter, Krishna says, whoever is a bhakti yogi is the highest yogi of all. And unfortunately, unfortunately, a lot of the human society is wrapped up in bodily exercises and gymnastics, different things like this, and they think that that's the all in all. They think that that's everything. So they think that just having a strong body, or being limber, or really what it comes down to is having better sex life. If we have a very strong body and very fit for a long time, then we can enjoy in this material world even into our old age. And what's the highest form of enjoyment in the material world? Some type of sex, either gross or subtle. So unfortunately, that's not the goal of life. Or unfortunately for those persons, they have envisioned the wrong goal. Actually, in one sense, appreciating, Krishna's relationship with Radharani actually is the supreme goal of life. So that's the Adi Ras, that's discussed in the Nectar of Devotion, the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion, that this whole idea of sex actually comes from Krishna and is ultimately perfect and pure in Krishna, but has nothing to do with our idea of what that is. So then we shouldn't speculate upon it or try to imagine such things. So anyway, the idea is that we have to be determined. So Prabhupada in the purport, he took the words of Lord Krishna here. He talks about firm determination, which is called nishchayena. Nishchayena. This word nish, it's also found in the words nishta. Nishta. Nishta means one who's become fixed. Dedicated. It's another good word. Fixed, dedicated. So this nishta, there's a friend of mine, very special friend of RVC. He's one of the degree holders of the bachelor's degree from RVC. His name is Acharya Nishta. One who is actually, his name is Acharya Nishta Das. So the person who's the servant of those who are fixed in the Acharya, or you could say the Acharya service. So that's really, his name is something like Das on a Das, like that. So he's very nice, and he also is quite determined as a person in devotional service. But this word nishchayena means firm determination, and yoktavyaha must be practiced, right? This yoga system must be practiced with firm determination. And then Krishna says in the next line, he mentions it. He says, yoga nirvina chetasa. Yoga nirvina chetasa. Without, in such practice, yoga, in such practice, anirvina. Anirvina chetasa, without deviation. This cheta, this consciousness, right? This is, we know about consciousness, or we can analyze our consciousness. One metric of it is where our attention is. If we're always putting our attention, or if our attention is constantly gravitating towards a certain thing, then we are conscious of that thing. Just like somebody who is bodily conscious, they're always thinking about this pain and this food or that food, or this lifestyle choice or that lifestyle choice, or this way I look or that way I don't look, and on and on and on, or that partner or this partner, so many things. Bodily consciousness, right? Our attention is placed, our attention is an indicator of our consciousness. That's the ultimate point. If we're self-reflective, if we become a inner detective, then we can actually analyze, where is my attention going? Because my consciousness is actually a form of energy. It actually is the energy of the soul. It's consciousness. It actually is one of the primary energies of the soul. Sat, Chit, Ananda. This Chit, Cheta, consciousness, knowledge, awareness. This is this word. So we have to be undeviating determination and faith. And then Krishna says, Tyaktva sarvan asheshataha. Right? What is it? What are we throwing away? Tyaktva, giving up all completely. What are we giving up? The third line. Sankalpa prabhavan kamams. Sankalpa means we make some determination or goal to get it, right? We make some goal or intention, you could say, sankalpa, material desires. So the general tendency in the material world is that sankalpa is to get some pleasure, right? By some material means, right? Sankalpa prabhavan, born of what? What type of was born from what? Kamans, not prema. Not that sankalpa, which is actually born from prema, from love first, from the desire to serve Krishna senses, but from the desire for my sense gratification. That intention or that desire, which is actually born prabhavan kamams, from sense gratification, not prema. So there's an awesome verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it says, prema is on one side, and on the other side of the spectrum is kama, which means that kama, it's described, means that we want to actually please our own material senses, and prema means we want to please Krishna's senses. And so we have to be really, really focused. And part of this verse is also can be applied to everything in devotional service. Like, say, the example which is given of the sparrow who tried to dry up the ocean because the ocean stole her eggs, right? Take that to anything in devotional service and, more or less get fired up and, put your foot down against the mind and, do what needs to be done according to the order of the spiritual master. It can, that's just a paraphrase of, the process of determination. But the idea is that, say, whatever the order of the spiritual master is, that's my connection with Bhakti Yoga. Ultimately, if it's Krishna's instruction, then it becomes the real guru's instruction. And this is actually comes up sometimes because people they read Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita, and then they're actually envious of Krishna, so they make something else up, and they say, no, you don't have to worship Krishna, you have to do good to man. This is common. This is standard. Completely standard. This is the only other thing. This is more or less it's either you get it and you become a devotee, or you say, yes, it's very nice, good philosophy. We should be nice to each other. Something like that. What is it? They're atheistic, actually, because I'm saying, they say, yes, I know Bhagavad Gita and all these things. I study Bhagavad Gita, and and you have your Prabhupada, version of Bhagavad Gita, ISKCON or whatever institution, they say. It's just an institution, just like the rest of them, right? And every other institution is saying the same thing. We have it right. We do what we do, and we're saved. We're free. We're liberated, right? And all this is just nonsense, and it's just a way to get money and ignore actually dealing with the world's problems. I'm actually in favor of just doing good to your fellow man, right? So that's their philosophy. But that philosophy, why they even came up with it? Because I told them to bow down to Krishna and worship Krishna. And they say you have to serve man. That's what it means to that's what Bhagavad Gita is saying. That's what it really means. Only your Bhagavad Gita says serve Krishna and chant Hare Krishna and all these things. But my Bhagavad Gita actually says do good to man. Krishna's the highest good, right? So they take, for example, there's a very popular Bhagavad Gita. Every one of us should know these things because these people are out here, and why they're speaking? Simply to detract from Krishna's glories. Their speech is the only, that's their purpose. What other thing? They're trying to decry Krishna, trying to bring Krishna down, so I don't have to think about Krishna. I don't have to worship him. I don't have to bow down to him. I certainly don't have to do any deity worship or any mantras or any of that. I do whatever the heck I want, and I say I'm following Bhagavad Gita because it's fashionable. It's fashionable. I've been to India. I went there. That's what they're doing, making a good business. And Prabhupada in the Ishopanishad, he said, they are making a good something like they make a good business out of from the words of Bhagavad Gita, from the words of Krishna. They make a good business on it. No, just anywhere. But no, Prabhupada says that he criticizes people who make a good business on the words of Krishna, even though it's very clear. Krishna says himself, not my version says, not ISKCON's version, not Prabhupada's version says, give up all varieties of religion and surrender unto me only. Mam ekam sharanam vraja, go, vraja, go and surrender unto myself only. Mam ekam. You think it's only my Gita says that? Check the Sanskrit. It's been for 5,000 years. And you're saying, no, you didn't get it. No, it's just a metaphor. It just means you just do whatever the heck you want and you be a good person. Who told you that? Krishna says, surrender unto me. So then they say, be good and do good to others. And I say, you're just trying to get away from surrendering Krishna. From surrendering to Krishna. I'm telling you, what are you going to give them? How are you going to serve them? With a little bread for today You want to give them service to Krishna, which gets them out of this material world forever. Serving themselves. How's that?
It's serving themselves through the illusion of serving others. Like you tell yourself that you're serving others, but in reality, you are serving yourself because you say that you're serving good, but you define good in order just to make a petty societal distinction based on what you think is good.
Very nice. And at the same time, they will go and they will criticize us for making some distinctions and saying they're demons and they're good. But our distinction is not based on my petty mind. It's based on Krishna. This is the thing. Ultimately, there must be some authority. We picked the right one. I follow what Prabhupada's Gita says. Why? Because Prabhupada loves Krishna. Because Prabhupada loves Krishna. And if you read Bhagavad Gita, then you see Krishna says, I'm God, and you should love me. And you should surrender unto me only. Me. And then they say, oh, no. We have to do good. We have to give some charity. We have to do all. Okay, that may be an ordinary course of activities within the material sphere. Philanthropic activities will go on. But if you want to get out of this material world, you want to actually do good for somebody, you have to give them what? You have to give them Krishna. And when we go to them and we try to say, my dear sir, please surrender unto Krishna. You know Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says surrender unto him. Then they make some excuse why they don't have to surrender. Because they understand better than Prabhupada. That's what they just said. You know? That's what he's saying. Saying your Gita, you ISKCON people and all of this. No. I'm doing what Krishna says to do. So then they say, very well-known form of Bhagavad Gita out there. It says, his translation, his commentary, the audacity, chapter 12, text number 4. Let's read it. It says, chapter 12, text 4. Of course, it's connected with yes, we can read let's read 12, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. It says, text 12, 1. Arjuna inquired, which is to be more perfect, considered to be more perfect? Those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? And then 2, the Blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. Now, they can say, no, that's just your version says that. But if you just look at the Sanskrit and you have any integrity, then you'll see exactly what Krishna's saying. It says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. And then he says Mom. Maya Vesha Mano Ye Mom. Unto me, Maya Aveshya, fixing mind, mana, yeah, one who, mom, unto me. So then I can make up all these other things, but Krishna literally says it. So why am I reading Bhagavad Gita if I don't believe what Krishna says? Why do I care about Bhagavad Gita? Why? Because it's fashionable. Because I'm making a good profit on Bhagavad Gita, and I'm saying, yes, I know Bhagavad Gita. I'm very fashionable and hip. But I don't actually, why am I accepting Bhagavad Gita in the first place? How do I even know about Bhagavad Gita? Because it's the most famous book in the world, because it's got real knowledge in it. How does this book become the most famous book? Because it's Krishna's book. Because he's the most famous, most attractive. 5,000 years, book is here still. It better be special. Why? Because it's Krishna. And I'm still trying to use Krishna's words and avoid surrendering to him. And, anyway, so now 3. It says, but those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and becoming equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Now, let's read the purport. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the supreme goal, Sri Krishna, as it is stated. After many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the supersoul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. So this other version, right, of Bhagavad Gita is saying, even though this verse is coming directly after Krishna said, serving myself personally is the best process. Then this other version of Gita is saying, without serving all of humanity, then there is no love for Krishna. This other version, he's saying that without serving, right, all of humanity and all these things, then there is no real love for Krishna. Right. He's stressing service on humanity rather than service for Krishna. And who said that? This is just another bogus philosophy, right? That's not what Krishna says. But Krishna does say, if you put in the work to actually be a real impersonal yogi, after many, many births, then you can finally surrender unto me. Why don't you just do it now? Same end.
Hare Krishna. So I think Krishna through this verse is giving us both the options. First one, he's telling that we have to surrender unto him and to him only. And he's also telling that those who do not surrender to him, or they might take the impersonal route, ultimately after many births, they would surrender unto him. So he's giving a difference of what exactly the person's consciousness would be.
At the end of the day, you're going to surrender. And this is another point that Prabhupada always makes. He says, you're going to have to surrender to somebody. Right? You're going to surrender to somebody. But this is the thing. This is the problem. If you actually want to surrender to the impersonal Brahman, then what do you have to do? You have to stop. You have to stop seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. This is what we're talking about. In order to perceive the supersoul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. So how are you going to do that? You're only going to pretend. You're going to go to the forest and you're going to not eat anything. You're going to eat one chickpea every day, right? And then you're going to come to the city when no one's watching once you get your mystic powers, and you're going to steal all the glubjaments. That's what they do. That's what they do. Just pop in there, do a little magic, get some pleasure, and but no, yeah, the fake fast. I mean, this is Prabhupada. He doesn't want us to just try to pretend. And that's the thing, is that anybody in this age, it's not that, because Krishna has knowledge which surpasses Kali Yuga, but we are in Kali Yuga. We're here in Kali Yuga. So Krishna is speaking in such a way which is beyond this short times, but we are living in here. We only have a certain time as a human. So we don't have any time to waste with this opportunity, which is obviously there to do impersonal liberation and to go that route. Krishna says it's there. We don't deny it. But how are you going to spend your time doing this? It's not possible in Kali Yuga. So that's what we're trying to wake up people to. But in the name of being a student of Bhagavad Gita, then they make some excuse why they can try to do this, even though the human lifespan is very short. What does that mean? That means they're just foolish. And it said, avajananti ma mudha, that they are going to do, their fools cannot understand me, and they're going to deride my appearance in the human form, or so-called human form, or apparently human-like form. Chapter 9, text 11. Nice. So this is the idea, is that that's what they do. So my thought is, I don't know why I got into it, but when I hear about determination, I think about who's going to preach this. Surrender unto Krishna. When nobody wants to hear nothing about Krishna, nobody knows who is Krishna. And there's so many people who think that they know what Krishna said, right? And they're going to make up all types of excuses and all this nonsense stuff, arguments and this. But are we still going to say, no, Krishna says, surrender unto him. This means determination. And this is our yoga, actually, because this is the Sankirtan movement. We have to glorify Krishna anywhere and everywhere. We have to spread his glories unlimitedly, right? And there will be rascals that try to get in the way of our glorifying Krishna, right? And they may blaspheme. They may give some excuses. They may criticize Prabhupada. They may criticize ISKCON. They may criticize our books. They may criticize our rituals, our practices, our lifestyle, right? And we have to be willing to say, Krishna says, you're a fool. If you don't want to surrender to Krishna, he says you're a fool. And I'm trying to help you. It says, surrender unto me. Krishna says. So we have to surrender unto him. Right? Of course, if somebody is not open ears to us, right, then we may not want to speak to them like that. Right. The books will say it. Right? So this is actually the point, is that inside though, and sometimes we get challenged. Sometimes we may meet somebody and they challenge us, right? And this is what the early book distributors, they face so much. Imagine 1960s. There's no such thing as a vegetarian practically. It was new then. It was new and it was weird. And everybody had long hair. It was beautiful. Beautiful time. No, hairy time. So, they had, so if you had a shaved head, all these things. I mean, I wasn't there, but they would get flack. And they said, the devotees, they said, when we would go to the airports, 1960s, that means high class. I mean, just imagine. In India, airport travel is newer. It's a little bit of a luxury. Same thing. Flying across the world in a big plane, that's a luxury. Now, Spirit Airlines, anybody and everybody. But still it's a luxury. Still got that luxury feel to it. Actually, that's part of the selling, you know. But at that time there was businessmen, lawyers, doctors, and then the devotees were trying to preach to them and sell them books. So people would just, these are high rollers. They would just cut them down and say all types of nonsense. So they were under fire. Now, we have to, it's like, we have to have that conviction. We have to understand what we're doing, why we're surrendering to Krishna, right? Because Krishna said it. And then we have to get into the knowledge, into the philosophy. We have to become convinced. Not because some other brahmachari or some devotee is saying, yeah, you better surrender to Krishna, right? But are we trying to understand it? Am I convinced? Am I ready to stand on it? Now, if I have a service and I don't want to waste time with this guy, and he's not going to listen to me anyway, then, why should I blow off? Why should I, waste my time with him? He can say whatever he wants, and I'll just say, hey, you know what? More people were like you, the world would be a better place. And I just go to the next person because he may be off the charts in terms of how fired up he would be, and I'm wasting my time with this guy, and I'm just casting pearls before swine. So this is some of the ideas, is that it's interesting. It's like we have to stand so strongly in Krishna's words and in our determination to practice devotional service against all odds, and simultaneously not waste time with people and try to find the people who are actually ready for devotional service, the innocent people, not the envious. So it's kind of it's always a toss up. It's like, it's like, okay, he's attacking Krishna, and and it's like, if we just let it hit us, we just kind of like absorb the hit, but we let it attack us, then we have to deal with it somehow. We can deal with it that moment by just combating if we can, right? We preach to ourselves that second, but we have to take that doubt. We have to talk to the devotees about it later and let them preach to us later. Because somewhere or other, their criticism and their doubts are going to attack, and we need some medicine against that. Of course, that's why reading the books is so valuable. Because Prabhupada, it won't let anything pass. That's why these books are so valuable. Because if we got some nonsense from this rascal out there, we just read this and we say, oh yeah, this is a stupid idea. It doesn't make any sense. Prabhupada makes sense. Because Krishna makes sense. Prabhupada tries to say what Krishna says. So anyway, those are some of my elaborations. Thank you for your time, devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. Andra Kalpatra Vishya. Interesting, actually. It's very interesting, actually, because by all this philosophy, this guy, he was criticizing